Greetings to everyone. I am Vishala, BA 4 student of English, SG College in Koppal. Today I am going to discuss about the war poetry. Here we can see the first introduction of war poetry. War poetry is a literary genre that developed during the period of the First World War. While means that war poetry is poetry on the topic of the war, while the term is applied especially to works of the First World War, the term can be applied to be poetry about any war, including Homer's Iliad from around the 18th century BC, as well as poetry of the American Civil War, the Spanish Civil War, the Crimean War, and other wars. Then the war poets wrote their poetry to raise the questions of either life or death, national pride or own existence, duty or guilt, courage or cowardice. Then the war poets or trench poets, it means emerged during World War I, reflecting the harsh realities and disillusionment of life in the trench. So the war poets and trench poets are known as anti-war poets because the soldiers come to poets not show war's gravity but the war's futility. Then broadly speaking, Milton's Paradise Lost or Ancient Beowulf is mainly covered or concerned with battles and heroism and thus regarded the war poem. Then in the 1920s, which is notable for the sea changing attitude. Then here can see the themes of war poetry. First one is the loss of innocence, then brotherhood and relationship, the horror of war, disillusionment with religion, destruction of nature, irrationality of war, emotional and feelings. Then we can see the purpose of war poetry. First one is poetry is the best way to express someone's emotion and expression during the war. Then another main reason for writing war poetry is to show the true picture of the war poet. Then it creates a sense of honor. Then here we can see the characteristics of the war poetry. First one, it uses gruesome and showing imaginary, and it signed a breakup from the contemporary poetic tradition and realistic document of war all its brutality. Then the most prominent anti-war poets. First one, Wilfred Owen. Owen was one of the most prominent anti-war poets during the First World War as well as a soldier. He wrote only 5 poems published in his literature time or in lifetime, but the most important poems are published posthumously. And second one poet is Ceasefire Session. War poetry is not complete without the work of Ceasefire Session, who was awarded the Queen's Medal for Poetry in 1957. He was not only a poet but also soldier. He shook the literary world to write his angry and compassionate poets about First World War. Selected war poems are Dirk et Decoren East by Wilfred Owen, The Hero by Ceasefire Session, and then The Soldier by Robert Brooke, and The Target by Yvonne Grunny, The Fear by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. Then the last is conclusion. War poetry is a powerful and enduring from the expression that can help us understanding and empathize with the human condition in times of war. War poetry can also help us question and critique the cause and effects of the war and violence. War poetry can also help us hope and strive for peace and justice in our world.
Yeah.